Hey, I'm Grant with Grant's Game Rex. Welcome to my top 10 party games of 2024. This is a category I feel especially qualified to talk about. I play a lot of party games, probably more than most content creators. I love party games. I love games that are social. I love games that play big groups. I love games that I can play with anybody and use them to introduce people to the board game hobby. I love games that elicit laughter and silliness. All of those reasons are reasons I like party games. And, the way I define party games is games that generally play a higher player count, games that are easy to teach, have a low rules overhead, and games that, create funny and silly and memorable moments. And all 10 of these games, I think, do a great job of that. So let's get into it. Top 10 party games of 2024. Number 10 is the Cat Mitt Game from Mick Miller. This plays 2 to 6 players. I got one of the best compliments I've gotten in a while recently at a game night. I brought the Cat Mitt Game and my buddy said to me, "Man, Grant, you're a real wild card. Sometimes you bring Andromeda's Edge and sometimes you bring this." And I love being that guy. The Cat Mitt Game is just pure silliness. There's no real strategy here, so know that going in. If you want a game with choices and decision making and all that sort of stuff, the Cat Mitt Game is not for you. But it is funny and it will make you laugh. And this is a game that's almost just as fun to watch other people playing it as it is to play yourself. There are treats inside of a cat toy, and you have to put on oven mitts sort of thing and bop the cat toy around and try to get treats out of it, and then push the treats onto your board. And meanwhile, the person to your left is rolling dice, and they are trying to roll 2 meows, meow meow. And then they yell meow meow when they've done it, and then they get to steal the gloves from you, and any treats that you have not pushed onto your board can be stolen by other players. So it's just a frantic, high energy, silly, laughy game. And, everybody's bad at it at first, and everybody's like, "Why won't the treats come out?" You get to see human adults pretending to be cats and bopping a cat toy around, and it is very memorable and dumb and silly and fun. So that is the Cat Mitt Game. Number 9 is What on Earth Are You Talking About? From Escape Tabletop Games. This plays 2 to 10 players. This is a game that I like party games that are both sort of thinky, clever, and funny. If you can be both at the same time, I think that hits a real sweet spot for party games. So in What on Earth Are You Talking About? You can play this in teams, you can play it sort of competitively, individually. One person will be an alien, and they are trying to sort of guess what you are talking about as human beings. And so you have these concepts on your cards, and maybe the concept is like prom night or something like that. And you have to try to explain this thing to the alien, but you only have specific letters on your card. And so you are having to do it, you're having to explain prom night by using words that start with these specific letters. So, it might be like, date, school, boogie, dress, or you might say, it just depends on what card you have, but there's a thinky moment, a clever moment where you have to think of how can I explain this thing using only words that start with these letters, and then watching people doing it or doing it yourself is always silly because it's very restrictive, and so you have to be clever, but also it's funny to hear what people shout out, it's funny to hear what people think you're talking about, it's funny to see people not know what you're talking about, and all that sort of stuff. So, What on Earth Are You Talking About? Is a clever and silly party game where you have to explain human concepts to an alien. Number 8 is the game DaDaDa from the Op. This plays 2 players to however many you want to play it with. I will say I don't know that I would play this with more than like 10 people, but you know, you can play it with 8, 9, 10 people for sure. This is a game where it's a cooperative party game where you are putting like these sort of pictogram cards. They are these artwork cards, but they're just black and white, and they're just sort of rudimentary artwork cards, and you are categorizing the cards according to different phrases. And those phrases are all sort of nonsensical one-word syllable sort of stuff. Da, be, goo, ga, you know, that sort of stuff. And so at the beginning, we'll kind of push a bunch of starter cards into those different things, and you're going to be doing them in different ways. And the way you think things are categorized is not always necessarily the way other people categorize them in their mind. You know, it's like, oh, these are things that are dangerous, or these are things that you'd have in your house. That's what I'm thinking, but you're thinking, oh, these are things that are fun and thrill-seeking, and these are things that are, you know, man-made stuff, or, you know, it's interesting. And so when new cards come out, one player is that you have one specific card that you care about people putting in the right place. And so you are using those nonsensical words to sort of give people clues. And, you know, this card is Gagooga. Gagooga. And then other people, without talking, they can only use these silly phrases. Then you add in other sort of red herring cards and then display them out, and they are having to go, okay, which one am I putting in which place, and which one is the right thing, and that sort of stuff. And so it's very silly. I mean, you would look like an insane group of people if someone is walking in the room and everybody's just being like, Saboji! Saboji, you know, and everybody's like, I don't know what's happening over there, but it is definitely very silly and clever as well, trying to arrange these different cards and doing it with these sort of nonsensical phrases. Number 7 on my list of top 10 party games is Lovestruck from Rabble. This plays 5 to 10 players. If you like social deduction games, hidden role games, Lovestruck is great because most social deduction games are sort of bad guys and good guys, and, you know, this is a horror theme, or this is like a vampire, or this is, you know, something like that. Well, Lovestruck, thematically, you are on a reality TV dating show. It's one of the most sort of original themes for a social deduction game. You are on a dating show, sort of, you know, like The Bachelor or something like that. And some people are there for the right reasons, and some people there are for the wrong reasons. And so right reason people only win the game if they end up at the end of the game in a couple with another person that was there for the right reason. But if the wrong reason person can end up with a right reason person, they win and the other person loses. And so you're playing cards and trying to like guess who's there for the right reason and who's there for the wrong reason. The wrong reason people can also win if they drive the ratings up. If they've been so dramatic that the TV ratings hit a bunch of millions, then they can win the game that way too. And so it's a great social deduction game with a very unique theme. And it's one that I think is going to be more approachable than, you know, some people are like, I don't want to be a werewolf. I have to lie to everybody and that sort of stuff. Well, Lovestruck, because of the theme, I feel like can bring more people in to the hidden role genre. It's just such a relatable theme these days and a really, really fun game. So if you want like a, you know, game of intrigue, a game of like backstabbing and stuff like that, I've played Lovestruck a bunch of times, and every time I walk away with like a memorable moment, you know, where you're like, I can't believe you did that to me and stuff like that. So super fun. Number 6 is the game Captain Obvious from Lucky Duck Games. This plays 3 to 10 players officially, though I don't think I would play it with less than 5. I think, to me, Captain Obvious is like a 5 to 10 player game. And we've talked a little bit in this video about how I like party games that are both clever and silly at the same time. And I think Captain Obvious does a good job of that. Everybody, there will be a keyword, and then one player will roll a die, and you have to write a sentence using the number of words that the die indicates and including the key word. Everybody has to include the key word, and you are trying to write a sentence that is as obvious as you can think of, because you will pass your board and the next player gets to erase one word out of your sentence and then read it aloud. If anybody can guess what word was missing, then you score a point and they score a point. But if the person who erased a word, nobody can guess what that word is, then they score a point. So you're trying to write something sort of so rudimentary and basic, and so it's clever in that way of trying to think of something that you can write well, but it's always silly in seeing what people did right or seeing what somebody erased and everybody's like, I don't know how you thought we were going to guess that sentence, you know? I remember playing this with some people and a word was ant. And so a number of people wrote something like, the ants go marching 2 by 2, and everybody was able to sort of guess the missing word out of those. But then one person wrote like, the ants eat my food, and somebody just erased my out of that, and so I don't know. We were all like, the ants eat sweet food, picnic food. What, I don't know what you were writing there, and so then nobody got it, you know, and everybody was laughing about like, that was a very specific word right there. You have a problem with ants. They're eating my food. The ants are always eating my food. Everybody knows that, you know, and so it was funny for that reason for sure. Number 5 on my list is the game I'm Kind of a Big Dill from Left Justified Studios. This plays 2 to 10 players. This is my game. And some of you guys are going to be like, well, you can't put your own game in your own top 10 video. Yes, I can. This is my video. I can do whatever I want. And yeah, if you want to say I'm biased, for sure, I'm biased. I designed this game, but I'm putting it in my top 10 party games of the year because I like it and I'm proud of it and I believe in myself. So, I'm Kind of a Big Dill is sort of like wavelength for storytelling. That's what I've heard some people kind of compare it to. One player is going to get a prompt card, and you're going to be describing your ability to do karate, or your skill at making paper airplanes, or your conflict management skills, or something like that. You are going to grab a token, a hidden token, and that is going to tell you how much you want to exaggerate for the better or for the worse. And then everybody else is going to ask you questions and sort of try to guess what number, what level you are exaggerating for the better or the worse. Some of the things we were thinking about in designing this game is that a lot of people aren't comfortable with lying in games. They don't feel good about lying. And so I'm Kind of a Big Dill. You are literally starting with your truth. How good are you at karate? Well, start by telling a true story. Just embellish it a little bit to make it look like you're better than you actually are, or you're worse than you actually are. So you're not just coming up with something out of the blue. You are starting with your truth and your own story and stuff like that, and then exaggerating for the better or the worse. So it's based in truth, and then that becomes one of the fun things of the game is after you're done, after everybody's guessed, you go, wait, so what is the truth? And you're like, well, you know, I did go to karate camp for a week, but I didn't, you know, win a medal there. I never got a belt, you know, so that's what you might be saying, sort of stuff. And so you get to know more about the people you're playing with. You get to learn a little bit more about them. And, you know, people compare it to wavelength because there is that sort of spectrum of, you know, better to worse sort of stuff and giving but instead of just sort of giving a clue, now you're telling a story to sort of get people to guess where you are on that spectrum. So if you like storytelling, if you like social games, check out I'm Kind of a Big Dill. Number 4 on my list is the game Caution Signs. This is from Wise Wizard Games' new imprint called Wacky Wizard Games. Wise Wizard Games is doing some more party, family, social games under a new brand called Wacky Wizard Games, and this was their first game under the Wacky Wizard brand. Plays 3 to 9 players. Caution Signs is a drawing party game, and I am terrible at drawing, and yet I still love this game because you only get 20 seconds to draw. So I don't care how good you are at drawing, you're never going to be able to do everything you want in 20 seconds. It's just too fast. So every player is drawing two words. You're basically drawing an adjective and a noun. And so it could be like a stretchy cow or burping baby or something like that. And then everybody at the same time looks at them and then frantically tries to draw what they have. And you have to be clever in your drawing. You have to go, how can I indicate evil in just 3 seconds? Because that's all I've got left. Well, there are eyebrows that go like this, and hopefully they get it, and you're just doing it real quickly. And then one player, the active player, is getting everybody's drawings and getting all of the words, plus a few red herrings, and then just trying to assign the different words to the right drawings. And it's very funny to see what people drew. It's very funny to see how the person guesses, because you'll be sitting there like, oh, come on, that's clearly an anxious aardvark. How could you not see that it's an anxious aardvark? And a lot of times you can't because your drawing's bad, and I'm even worse at it than most people. And so I think it's if you like sort of silly drawing games, stuff like that, Caution Signs has shot up my list of like my favorite drawing games for sure. So check it out. Number 3 is That Escalated Quickly from Exploding Kittens. Plays 2 to 8 players. This is another cooperative party game, and another one that I would compare a little bit to Wavelength, in the sense that there is a prompt card. One person is the active player. Well, everybody else gets a number from 1 to 10. And so I definitely do think this game is better with like 5 or more. It says 2 to 8 players, but I would prefer to play this at 5 and up because then there's more numbers out. And so you are sort of answering based on your number according to the spectrum that the active player is doing. And so, one of the examples they use just even on the box is like, I'm jumping out of an airplane, I'm skydiving. What did I bring with me from least helpful to most helpful? So least helpful, if I got the number 1, I might be like, what did I bring with me when I was skydiving? I brought 36 anvils. I didn't bring a parachute, I just brought anvils. That's what I'm jumping with outside of the plane. Whereas if you have a 10, you're going to be like, well, I brought my backup parachute, and then I brought a third backup parachute, and then I actually invented shoes that have parachutes in the shoes, so I have like 6 parachutes on me right now. That's what I brought skydiving. And so then the active player has to basically tell people to flip over their numbers in the right order. If you mess up the sequence, you lose that round. If you get all the sequence right, you win the round. And so, it is a game that really requires some creativity in a way that I love. Like, you have to go, okay, how can I indicate a 4 here? Like, that's pretty middle of the road, but I need it to be a little more to the side of less helpful than more helpful. And so you are engaging your creative brain and your storytelling and stuff like that. And if you play it with funny people, people come up with really funny answers and concepts and suggestions and solutions to the prompts in this game. So it's another game that's a little bit like, social storytelling Wavelength, but instead of personal stories, you're just sort of making up yarns in this one to get somebody to guess where you are on the ranking, the scale, if you will. So if you like creative games, That Escalated Quickly is one of my favorites. My number 2 of my top 10 party games of 2024 is Flip 7 from the Op. This plays 3 to however many players you want to play it with. They do recommend, if you're going to play it with a lot of people, if you're going to play it with like 15 or more people, you should have 2 decks of cards that you can mix together. But, this is such a great card game. The way I like to describe it to some people is like gamer blackjack. This is like blackjack where all you're doing is hitting or passing. You are saying, I want a card or I don't want a card. That's the choice you make on your turn. The difference of this than like a normal blackjack, a normal deck of cards, is that the game has 12 12s and 11 11s and 10 10s and 9 9s and stuff like that. The deck has that. And if you stop, if you end the round, you get to add up your points. The value of the card is the points that you get for the round. If you ever get two of the same number, you bust. So it feels good when you get like a 12 and an 11, but then you're like, oh my gosh, there's a bunch of 12s and a bunch of 11s in the deck, so should I hit? Should I stay? Should I keep going? And you just play a bunch of rounds, and the first person to hit 200 points wins. So actually, it's not the first person. Whoever hits 200 points ends the game, and then whoever has the most points wins. There's some special cards in the deck. You can freeze somebody else. You can flip 3 cards in a row. You can get a second chance. There's a bunch of different sort of gamery aspects to it with these special cards in the deck, but it's really just a pure push your luck card game, and it's one that's exciting every time I play it. You know, this is one that has a lot of emotions associated to it in a good way. You know, you constantly see people like, yeah, or no, come on. And I just love games that can sort of elicit that reaction at the table. And Flip 7 is one of the best at just sort of, you know, invoking glee or sorrow in the middle of a game when you push your luck too hard or push your luck and hit. It's a really, really fun card game. This is a game that I can play with anybody. I can put in my pocket, bring to any brewery, bar, get people into it, that sort of stuff. So I love it for that reason. And my number one party game of the year is 3 of a Kind from Weird City Games. This plays 2 to 8 players, and it is a super fun game. I love games like Green Team Wins or Blob Party or things like that where you kind of have to think along the same lines as other players. And, you know, this game, 3 of a Kind, does it in a really interesting way. So, 4 players will flip over cards. 1 player is going to flip over a category, and then 3 other players are going to flip over sort of adjectives for that category. And you have to write 3 responses, and you are only going to get points if you wrote the same response as someone else playing. But having those like multiple adjectives associated with one category really engages this interesting part of your brain, because you're like, I need to think of different things for each of these things, you know? So if the like, you know, if the category was cities, well, then one of these things is loneliest city, and one of these things is like most likely to succeed city, and this one is like the hardest city. Okay, well, the hardest city, I don't know what that means exactly, but I have to come up with an answer, and I have to do it the same way that other people are doing it. So there's always like interesting justifications where you write stuff and then people are like, what? And you're like, no, this is why I said that. And they're like, oh, that's interesting. That's funny. You know, the hardest city, I don't know, New York, because everybody wants to go there to make it, but it beats you up all the time. Or LA. LA is a city of broken dreams. Maybe that's the hardest. Maybe it's Chicago, because Chicago has a lot of concrete. We've paved over, you know, parts of Lake Michigan and stuff. I don't know what the hardest city is. You know, how do you think of hardest there? What's the most likely to succeed city? I don't know, but it's fun to see what people write, and it's fun. You know, this is a great game to sort of see how people's brain works and stuff like that. I love the stories that come out of it. I love seeing what people put down and stuff. It's been fun every time I've played it, you know, and it is one that works well at, you know, some of these games I'm like, I don't want to play this unless I have like 6, 7, 8 players. Like 3 of a Kind, I've played it with 4 players and had a great time with just 4 players. And I've played it with 8 players and had a great time with that as well. So yeah, it's a fun game if you like that sort of groupthink aspect and coming up with creative answers to weird combos. You know, that's where the game shines, is that when a category doesn't really fit with the adjective, it's like a weird combination. That makes it super fun, because then you don't know what people are going to write, and it's fun to see what people are going to write. So all of these games are great party games. All these games came out in 2024, and I recommend them a lot. If you want to have a social, fun night with a bunch of friends, these are all great games. So thank you so much for being here. I hope you found some that you like. Please like, subscribe, all that sort of stuff. I will be coming out with more of these category videos soon. I'm Grant with Grant's Game Rex.